Good afternoon, everybody. Today's question was, a person is building an apartment, and their neighbor says, "Oh, wow, you're fixing up your house, and you're going to put an apartment in the basement. I would like to rent it out." And the person says, "Sure, it's going to be, $500. Let's sign a contract." "Sure, no problem. $500 signs a contract for the apartment." 3 months later, when the apartment's finally ready, he turns to his neighbor and says, "Listen, I know we had a deal, but I just can't rent it for $100. The cost, surprising enough, escalated, and I need to charge $600 a month in order to recoup my costs." The neighbor's like, "Listen, buddy, a deal's a deal. We signed the contract, $500. So what does in fact, does he have to still abide by $500 even though he is losing money? So I didn't actually have a chance to read anyone's responses, maybe one person. There's one issue that's actually fascinating when it comes to Jewish law. And that's the issue of, can you make a deal for something that doesn't exist? That is called davar she lo ba lo olam. Are you able to make a deal with somebody, right? Would you like to buy my fruits? It's January. I'd like to buy my apples that I'm going to have in September, whenever apples grow. I don't even know, right? Are you allowed to do that? Lo ba she olam. So that is question number one. And question number two is, how binding is that contract? So there's when it comes to renting, the commentaries, that's what I was trying to flip through during the shots. The commentaries actually say when it comes to renting something, you're much more likely, even if that item doesn't come into existence, the concept of renting says, I want something in that period of time. So it's almost understood from the beginning. I'm not interested in today. It's about a future contract. It's about doing something in the future, which means it's more acceptable to do so on something which is lo ba lo. That's the entire principle behind it. But perhaps most importantly is, what do you mean? Everyone does that. When you go and you build a house, you're buying a piece of land. The land is totally empty, and you give the developer and the builder $500,000. How come that's binding? Davar she lo ba lo olam. The answer is, that's the way, specifically in the world of housing, especially, how things work.
You're contracting them for the work. Here, the contract is on an object.
No, what do you? Oh, you're saying that a completed project.
Yeah. When I rent from you, I'm getting the object, as opposed to when I'm contracting a developer, I'm contracting his time and effort.
True. Still seems to imply that's the Nesiva seems to say, that's what I wanted to finish. So the Nesiva Mishpat seems to imply that when it comes to an agreement between people about something that's commonly done, that seems to be binding, right? So even if you want to argue that you can't enter a negotiation of davar she lo ba lo olam, it could be that if that is the common way from doing a deal, and there is an accepted practice that's binding, then in fact that would be the case here, and therefore the agreement is a valid agreement. You would not be allowed to go back on your word. You'd have to enter into the deal for $500. So it appears that the owner is stuck with the loss and has no choice but to accept $500 unless he pays, damages and stuff. But you're not allowed to back out of things because then you get cursed, which we don't like to do. So a very interesting case because of that loophole. But ultimately, it appears that you're stuck and you got to pay $500. Have a good day.